Welcome to another edition of Winemaker's Minutes. Today we're talking about the fermentation vessels with the vessel of choice. It varies whether you're making a white wine or a red wine. In general, for white wine, you have a few more options. If you want to make very smooth and minerally and stainless steel, really crisp wine, you can use a stainless steel tank, which is the traditional way of like New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs. The next option is an oak barrel to do the fermentation, and essentially an oak barrel holds about 60 gallons of juice, and we fill it up about 52 gallons with juice, and then we'll inoculate with your desired yeast. And so you want to have some headspace there because the yeast are known to foam, and you don't want too much juice falling out all over the floor. So essentially, you use an oak barrel if you want to get a little more structure into your wine, especially if you want to get more tannins and mouthfeel. You'll go for the oak, which would be Chardonnay, some Sauvignon Blancs, Viognier, it's an option, Marsanne, Roussanne. A lot of the white wines do well with a little extra oak and tannins, essentially, is what you're getting from those fermentations. So your options really depend on the style of wine you're making. There is also Chardonnays are being made with stainless steels, and that gives you an opportunity to preserve the floral and the fruit aspects of the Chardonnay grape itself. And it also gives a nice crispness to the wine. You'll usually not do malolactic fermentation, and you'll maintain the malic acid. With red grapes, it's a little different. The grapes come in, they're destemmed, and then they're sorted into what we call a T-bin, a fermentation bin. It holds about 3/4 of a ton. And essentially the grapes fall into the bin, and once fermentation starts, the yeast produce CO2, which pushes all the grapes to the top, and that forms a cap. So every day we come into the fermentation bin and we punch down the cap. Now, in general, the reason we use fermentation bins is because we cater to small lot winemaking. So that way our customers get the style of wine that they want, and not every customer likes the same style. So also at CrushPad, we're working with an experimental type of roto fermenter. It's actually a barrel that has a door drilled into the top of it, so we can seal it. And what we do is we put the grape pumice right into the oak barrel, and essentially you can put about 400 pounds into a normal size barrel, and then the larger the barrel, the more you can put. So up to 800 pounds, I would imagine, fits into one oak barrel. What we do is we seal the door, and we have the barrel on some some wheels, essentially, and we're able to spin the barrel around, and that mixes up the cap. So when we're talking about a fermentation bin, the cap floats to the top with fermentation. Same thing happens in a barrel, but you can't get in that barrel to punch down the grapes. So we use the rotation to mix up the cap, which keeps it wet and moist and gets the cap that was on the top into the juice, so you get more extraction. The same thing happens in a fermentation bin. When you punch on your cap, the idea is to mix the cap up so that you get as max extraction out of all the grapes. So in conclusion, the type of fermentation vessel you use depends on the variety, red or white, and the style of wine you want to make. With white wines, after fermentation, primary fermentation, there's the option to barrel the wine down. That means you take your wine and put it into barrel to age and mature, or you could keep it in stainless steel tanks to let it finish, again, depending on the style. With red wine, pretty much after fermentation, everything gets pressed and then barreled down, and then we're going to let the wine age until it's time to bottle in that barrel.